So can you see my screen? I hope you can. Um, so welcome to this first session, everyone. It's a small chat. It's based on some research that I've been doing, and I hope you find it interesting and enlightening at least. So the talk today is about the perennial wisdom, and what it means is that. So if you look at that image there, you see Jesus, but what I'm saying is that there's older masters that have told the same story, and it's a wisdom that goes back eons and eons. And Jesus is one of many in a line of masters that have said the same message. And so in this one, I'm going to draw some parallels based on some research I've been doing, and I hope we can draw some conclusions based on that as well. So this knowledge, we call it knowledge of the supreme. It's knowledge of the understanding of the supreme. In Vedic sort of circles, it's called Brahma Vidya. Brahma meaning the supreme ultimate, and Vidya meaning knowledge. Okay. And so in terms of the context of this thing, it's we're talking about Jesus on a Sunday. Does this it smells like a sermon? No, this is not a sermon as such. It's more I would say a more an academic exercise, a knowledge exercise. Why the ungodly hour? Well, it comes back from a tradition that some friends of mine and I have. So we have a call early on a Sunday morning. We avoid the families, and we have some time to catch up. And during these sessions, we also do a bit of a knowledge drop. So based on that, we've now just extended the session to more people. So welcome, and I hope you enjoyed. And for me, the only question is, are you going to be back next week? So we'll see. Um, so maybe a little small introduction about myself quickly. So I, funnily, when I wrote this, the word artist came first, then scientist, then spiritual seeker, which I found very unusual when I was typing this out. Artist, because I think I was given a gift of artistry as a child, but I sort of never I never used it as such. I used more my scientific mind. And now at this later end of life, I think I'm using more my spiritual mind. The second part of the picture is about self-study. Now, this is a play on the word self, which is being first autodidactic, which means I like to study a lot on my own. But it's also more about the self as in the capital letter self, which is that element that sits in your deepest of deepest of presence. And so I love studying, I love learning, and I keep my areas of focus quite wide. But if I had to narrow it down to three, I'd say it's a lot to do with science, it's a lot to do with spirit, and a lot to do with self. And through this journey as well, there's a lot of I would say realizations that one comes to. And for me, again, I've just highlighted three, which is there's a oneness to everything. It's illogical to have a universe of duality where it's me and some creator. It logically has to reconcile into one. Also, you realize that this oneness is within you. And third thing you realize is this oneness is found when you find your silence within yourself. And that is silencing the mind as well as silencing the body. And so next part is why Jesus as my starting talk. Well, he's a pretty cool guy. So of course, I thought it was a good starter. But I was reading a book called The Perennial Way. And in this book, there's a chapter called the Book of Yeshua. And what's important about this Book of Yeshua is that um, it's a book. It zones in more on direct quotes of Yeshua, of Jesus. Now, Yeshua means it's an old word name for Jesus, which was Yeshua bin Yosef. So Yeshua, son of Joseph or Joseph. And in this book, it's sort of so it's not from the Bible, but it's direct quotes out of Jesus. So I basically did an analysis of what is Jesus as a master telling us. So I've done a separation between, I'd say, Christianity, the organization, and Jesus, the actual individual, the actual teacher. And you find that there are, I would say, differences, and there's I would say, a much, much greater and deeper wisdom within the teachings of Jesus. Then the second part is about this Brahma Vidya, which is the knowledge of the Supreme. And so I'm going to demonstrate that Yeshua, or Jesus, was one of these masters that taught the supreme knowledge. And it's a long, long line of many, many masters all over the world that have taught the same knowledge. And then, so I've done some comparisons, some results. I would say the scientific mind in me has done some analysis and results, and this is what I'm going to show you today. And I try to keep it quite simple, so I hope the message comes across as well. So let us begin. So, in terms of this presentation, you'll see it's sort of just 4 parts to it. I've kept a heading. I've kept a statement from Jesus, so one of his statements from this book of the Brahma Sutra, from the book of the Perennial Way, and then I've matched it to another spiritual master. In this case, I've chosen one of the Indian teachers by the name of Krishna. But what I want to show you, it doesn't matter who the teacher is. Ignore the teacher, but look at the message. So in the first one, it's about oneness with the divine. And so one of his statements is, I and the Father are one. Okay? And this means it reconciles the universe into not a duality, not my Father and I need to bow to some superior being out there. But no, it's that we are one, that there's a unity within everything, a oneness within everything. And then if you read the Krishna quote, it's, I am the self seated in the hearts of all creatures. Now, Krishna's style is he likes to talk from him as the supreme, because that's just the nature of the style of the teacher, but he's saying the same thing, and that is that all is one with the divine. Okay, so first, I'd say a big quote from Jesus. No, you're not going to find it in a church. You're going to find it within. This is the second part, which is this inner divinity. And so one of Jesus' statements here is that the kingdom of God is within you. And if you look at the Krishna's words, it's, I am the self seated in the hearts of all creatures. And so this really drives home a second big point, which is that divinity that we seek is within. It's not out somewhere in some church or some temple or some outer world. You have to turn your focus inwards if you want to find this reality. And so you'd see in this picture as well, I've put a lotus flower there on the right-hand side. And I put a statement below that called Om Mani Padme Hum. Now, it's a Buddhist mantra. So again, another one of those perennial teachers, the Buddha. We'll probably do a presentation on him sometime as well. But Om Mani Padme Hum means the jewel is in the lotus. And if that apparition of what you call yourself is the lotus, the jewel is in the middle somewhere. You need to find it. The next one is about timeless existence. And this is another one of those crazy statements, which was from Jesus, which was, before Abraham was, I am. Now it's a really deep statement. You need to process it for a while. If I draw a comparison to Krishna again, he says, I am unborn, and my divine transcendental body never decays. I am the eternal soul, the imperishable essence of all beings. And whenever Krishna is talking about I, he's actually talking about you. This is what you are. Remember, the world always reconciles to a oneness of just one. There's nothing but one. And when he's describing that I, he's describing exactly what your essence is. And so the big message there is that we are eternal and beyond time. We are immortal in every single way. Yes, this particular instance of yourself, you call it Andre, or you call it Zoltan, or whatever you want to call it. But that is simply just an outfit for what your eternal self is. That eternal self it goes on, it's been going on for forever. So It's sort of, if you have to look at Isaac Newton, he talks about that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It simply changes form. And if you consider yourself that you are this energy, then you simply cannot be created nor destroyed. You've never not existed in this sort of in this universe. So the next one of the teachings, again, these are I told you, these are very core teachings, and so it's really going down to the really foundation of what Yeshua or Jesus taught. The next one is about the union of dualities. And here he says, when you make the two one, you will enter the kingdom of God. And in sort of in the parallel with Krishna, he says, he who sees the divine equally in all beings is a true yogi. But what it means is you have to understand, you have to see beyond the dualities of existence, the sort of you and me sort of existence, and understand that we are all connected and we are all simply one expression of this one infinite, immortal being, this one divinity. So in that picture on the right hand side, you'll see that I've got a sort of it almost looks like one of the, I would say, one of the Hindu gods with the three heads, but it's showing something which is a sort of a left brain and a right brain and a sort of a knowing brain. So a little bit of inspiration by an author called Walter Russell, where he talks about your sort of your thinking mind being the two lobes on either side, and the knowing mind being right here. And you have to almost merge your analytical mind and your artistic mind, bring them into a center point, and then you find unity in yourself. The next one is another big lesson. So for me, each of these statements lays an infrastructure on how this universe is set up, and you have to almost internalize and understand it. That this is how the universe is constructed. And so the next part is that if we are all one being, it's all infinite. Then the next part, it has to be interconnected. That there's an interconnected unity within this entity. And to quote Jesus, I am my Father, I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. Again, another one of those statements that needs a lot of thought and processing. But if we look at Krishna's one, it says, when the mind is fixed on the Supreme, the yogi sees the light of wisdom and understands the true nature of the self. And again, the statement is clear. It's that we are connected in the divine. Okay, so if you had to look at it in terms of like a technology architecture, they're simply explaining all the multiple layers of this entity that we are. Next one is about light. And I've written the light, not illumination. I'll explain that a little later, but first let's go to the statements. So another one of Jesus' statements, which is, if your eye be single, your whole body will be full of light. And and in comparison, Krishna's one, which is, I am the self seated in the hearts of all creatures. And here it's focus on the divine and you will see clearly. Now, Jesus, when he talks about light, you have to understand that it's not the scientific light that we talk about. Scientific light, the one that we measure with traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, I think it was. This is simply illumination. What Jesus is talking about is the source of that illumination. That is the light that he's talking about. It's the light that provides your beingness, that keeps you illuminated and alive. When the light has left the body, then the body has passed on. The next is about the divine within. So here, Jesus' statement is, the Father and I will come to him and make our home with him. And by comparison, Krishna talks about, I reside in the hearts of all creatures. By my divine energy, all beings are pervaded. And so here, again, a very simple conclusion that that divinity is within you. It's so close to you, but so far, but it is there. Uh, and the next one is about purity of heart. And so I think in a lot of imagery of an artistic imagery of Jesus, you'll always see this sort of heart focus. So it seems he had a very open heart chakra, and you can see it from his teachings and his style, and even the you can still feel it from the energy even now that he was a very heart being. And so his statement is, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And by comparison, Krishna says, one who is free from desire and attains a pure heart, such a person perceives the unity of all creation. And this pure heart is a very, for me, it's like it's an entry gate. Without a pure heart, you will not proceed. So it requires really an earnest sincerity, first and foremost, before you can proceed on this journey. So no, you cannot hack it. You cannot act it, you cannot fool it, because what is being sought after is really a brutally honest earnesty, an open heart to learn. Otherwise, the door is simply closed to that knowledge. And I think this is the last one in terms of at least the comparison. And the last one is about how to be. And this is about how to act in the world. And in terms of the Jesus perspective, it's almost a conclusion of all the other teachings that he gave. And he says, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. So he's showing again this non-duality nature, that you act with almost the most sincere of heart and understand that you are serving the divine when you serve all. When you look at Krishna's words, when you perform your actions with dedication and surrender to the divine, you will achieve the highest good. And again, it's the sort of same comment. And that means that you serve all. You serve all as if you're serving the divine. So more or less, these are some of the, I would say, the pillars that anchor this perennial knowledge that I'm talking about, this perennial wisdom. And so if we look at that summary, this is the first five. And just to recap, it's about oneness. It's about finding that oneness within you. It's understanding that you are eternal beyond all conception of time, that you need to go past that illusion of duality, and you go inwards to break that illusion, that we are all interconnected. It's really like a super advanced computer, if you look at it, the whole system. It's based on light. Light is electromagnetism. It's electricity at the end of the day. Now, under light, you'll see I've written something called Tat Savitur Varenyam. Now, this is from a mantra called the Gayatri mantra. It's considered one of the most powerful mantras. And if you read it, it's very simple. But what Tat Savitur Varenyam means is it's that divine, that effulgent light of the sun. But it's the light of you that's within you as well. And so this Gayatri mantra, it almost asks for the knowledge. It asks the Supreme for the knowledge to understand, for you to understand yourself. Then it's always about going within. So it's never, ever about going outwards. Never. So if ever there's about some grand quest to conquer some external God on the external world, no, wrong direction. It's always within. In terms of purity of heart, I wrote there, it cannot be faked. You cannot hack this one, you cannot cheat this one. It requires an open, honest heart. And the last one is about just to be. You be knowing that all is self, and you serve selflessly. So you have to almost see the one in the all and the all in the one, according to these teachings. So based on that, I took some time to end the story, but I decided to get some psychedelic pictures into place to put all this together. So, what this Jesus is teaching at the end of the day, as I told you, is Brahma Vidya. It's knowledge of the Supreme. And he's one of a line of many, many, many masters who have taught this crystal clear, infallible, eternal knowledge. It'll be valid today. It'll be valid in 10,000 years. It'll be valid in 10 million years. It'll be valid in 10 trillion years. This is the ultimate truth. So based on that, I've put a little thank you together. So you'll see here that in this picture, there's a whole whackload of beings and insects and creatures and animals and extraterrestrial. They are all self. Okay. So it's from yourself to yourself. So what you need to see is that all the beings in the entire universe are simply a reflection of you. And all the past teachers, all the past beings are merely simply a reflection of you. And we are you, and you are that. And we are some inconceivable oneness, a source of energy that drives and powers everything and everyone in its illusion. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very, very much. And I'm happy to take some questions as well, if you like. So stopping sharing. So any questions, firstly? Andre, I think you might be on mute.
There we go. Hello. Yeah, so firstly, thank you. I mean, it was really nice. I enjoyed that. And yeah, I mean, it completely aligns with the whole Reiki. You know, I've just done this Reiki training, and for me, a key thing, that Reiki is the divine chi, the divine energy, and just really internalizing that and knowing that that divine energy resides in you and it's everywhere, and yeah, this was such a lovely way of also reflecting that and bringing that together. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Andre. Excellent. Yeah, it's the same light that Reiki is the same light that Jesus is talking about.
Mm, mm,
Essentially, full spectrum electromagnetism. The prana, the chi, the life force energy, it's all the same thing. But it's electricity at the end of the day.
mm.
Electromagnetism.
So something that I've also been reflecting on as well, and maybe a little bit um, on a in addition to this, well, not in addition, but just another perspective as well, is just as we come into peace with ourselves and we release all hurts and angers and unforgiveness, then there's a lovely scripture that says, "Forgive others
Mhm.
as your Father in heaven forgives you." Father, forgive us as our sins, as we forgive others who have trespassed against us.
Yes.
And it's not so much that God's sitting there, okay, you've forgiven that, right? So there's one forgiveness for you, but it's rather a law. It's rather a law of the divine, which is the measure that you extend forgiveness to others is just your karma. It's the measure that forgiveness is extended to you because it's what are you holding on to in
Yeah.
terms of any hurts or angers or anything like that. Um, yeah, and again, it just ties in everything so nicely with what you've been saying.
Yeah. The universe is like a hall of mirrors, eh? So everything is a reflection of you. And
Absolutely.
every being is a reflection of you. In Vedic philosophy, or one of Krishna's statements, he describes it as he calls it Indra's necklace, but he says it's a necklace with each pearl is a reflection of her, and it's an infinite series of just shining pearls, which is a reflection of the other. And it's talking about us, all of us
Yeah.
being just these pearls that reflect each other. Any other questions, comments?
So I love your lotus flower as well,
Yeah.
because so I just rebranded my business from Business Insights Group to the Synergy Group. And
Okay.
as a logo, I chose the lotus flower.
Oh,
And
excellent.
where we're staying in Candidisa in Bali,
Yeah.
there's a lotus pond. And we went to go look at the lotus flowers, but they were all asleep because
It's
you have to go at a specific time of the day. And I never knew this. So, from about 11 o'clock in the morning when it's hot here, these flowers, they all close, and it's like this. And then as um, early hours of the morning, I don't know what time they open up, but then they open up and the beautiful flower comes out from the center. And then as it gets a bit too hot in the day, so maybe about 11 o'clock, they all close again. And it's just beautiful seeing this lotus flower and seeing you bring it back into the illustration there.
I'm actually glad you brought that one up because you shared that video with me the other day with the lotus flower. You
Huh?
sh And I was very excited because it was like an Easter egg because I had already done this presentation and it had that lotus flower. So I'm actually glad you picked that up as well because I had remembered that and I had forgotten it this morning when I was doing this presentation that I had.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything to clarify? Opinions? Zealand, normally you have something to say.
Okay, I'll say it. So, like, I can't describe how powerful your presentation was. Like, I can't. Okay. So words won't do justice to it. That's one. Two, the most powerful statement you made for me was that ignore the messenger or the teacher,
Yeah,
but acknowledge the message.
yeah,
That stuck with me. Okay. It's beautiful.
yeah. I think,
I think, but my question to you is, I think you're preaching to the converted here.
okay, could
People
be,
that rocked up
could be.
here, right? People that rocked up here kind of like get what you're saying. How do we take it to a bigger audience?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, we don't know. We'll see as we go along. We'll post this on YouTube for the start, so we can share it with a bigger group of people. Uh, yeah, we'll take it from there, I guess.
Yeah, but it's so profound that I think, but when we chatted before, we chatted about that the gap between those like generation gaps that,
Yes,
that they lost.
yes,
How do we get it to them?
yeah. That we need to talk about and see how
We
we.
need to talk about that because it's because there's people that will well focus on the messenger, you know what I mean? And there's people that will focus on the message.
It's almost like, the world has gone to almost like you either choose Man United or you choose Liverpool. It's like it's gone into a, you know, a team. So it's my God is better than your God. My God is cooler than your God. It's got more points. And yeah, you have to look beyond that. But I would suggest bring your kids into these videos, into these sessions. Let them watch it. Let them sit down. They might even have questions. I really love that. I think it was last week when you had that chat with your kids, and they seem to be quite engaged in the story as well.
So I think to answer in part your question there, Sila, is that when we, be the change that you want to see in the world. So as we embrace unity and put aside the duality and not make it about Man United or Chelsea or my God or your God, and we embracing just a love and an acceptance of things that would normally be difficult for us to embrace. I think what happens then is firstly, we're sending out that energy, right? So we're vibrating at a different energy. We're vibrating at an energy that has a far more inclusive frequency, a vibrational layer. And that in itself will start then attracting the people that are ready for that awareness and that and also bringing them in. And your expression will be that communication, as opposed to, let's say, a traditional way of broadcasting it as a sermon per se. I think it's maybe more an energetic and a frequency time now for us. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a perspective that I would suggest.
I totally agree on that. Yeah, because like it's on us to embody this and to radiate this. And you know, you always had teachers, and well, you have people who share it, and you have people who don't say anything about it, but they influence people everywhere they go. And I think that is the most powerful thing. So we can talk about it, but we do not necessarily have to talk about it. It's important to live it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Andre and Zoltan, absolutely. You know, I'm all about energy, and what you give out is what you're going to receive. But I think in this case, because of the Ral's looking at or connecting with the younger, the younger generation, it's also very much about what they're reading and seeing. So you kind of have to do both. Yes, we know we have to be this. We have to hold that energy, but also kind of, as you're saying, putting it on YouTube, us spreading the word when we have workshops, when we have, because the younger generation is very much about what's on TikTok and what they read and what they see. And the way you've explained it, Raul, is so simple. It's so, and this is why I think many of us don't have questions, because it's so clear. And the comparison, and because I know what's coming in the next the next sessions you're having, the comparisons with Islam and all other religions. I think, yes, and kind of getting to one person at a time. Yes, I know it sounds a bit tedious and long-winded, but no. I think doing it both ways, energetically, absolutely. And I think we all hold that energy already, especially those of us that are on here. But putting it out there, whether it's on your Instagram, on your YouTube, on your, I think that will also definitely help the younger generation, because they're all about the visual. So yeah, well, that's my opinion.
Also makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, YouTube is energy.
YouTube energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
Okay, I'd like to make a comment though. So I know you guys don't really know me that well. I have to say that actually I feel like you've spoken to my soul. That's how profound like this discourse is. And it really didn't need to be an hour or 2 hours. I think when I looked at the invite, in my mind, I was kind of planning, because I have like a few other workshops to kind of attend in this day. And I was planning like, is it going to be an hour or two? And how should I figure out my time? But really, it was brilliant and so succinct, but I think it's the wrong word that I'm using, actually. Like Sidan said, I think no words can really describe what you have done. From my own kind of personal experience. Like when I meditate, my mantra is aham, which is I am. So, just in a few ways in which I resonate very much with what you spoke about. And in my job, because I have patients coming to me who have high risk pregnancies, who have so many things going on, ultimately, we eventually do end up talking about spirituality and its role, because my job as a healthcare provider is providing a holistic experience for patients. And I had this experience a few weeks ago where I took care of a patient earlier in the year, and she was referred to me by somebody, but she lost her pregnancy. And that person asked me to take over the management because it was a very complex patient. And this patient, they are Christian, and they had this Women's conference, and I was invited. I didn't realize that I was a guest of honor there. So when I got there, she stood up and she spoke about her experience with me, and she got the pastor to pray for me, and she made me stand up, in this audience of people. And it was such a profound experience. And sometimes we don't realize the effect that we have on other people. It doesn't have to come from spirituality or anything, but just being good and kind. And I think, and having pure intentions, your it doesn't have to come from a place saying that this is all about spirituality, but I think that's what spirituality is about, how we live our lives. That is testament to what it is. And these, like having a pure heart, I think everything we go through is a test to get us to that point, whether it's in the work situation, in our personal situation. Okay, she drives a Porsche, he has a Lamborghini, whatever. It's about letting go of all those egotistical kind of things to get to that point of actually having a pure heart. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for sharing that story with us as well. Very nice. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Just adding to what you were saying there about a pure heart, one of the most profound experiences that I've sort of encountered is loving yourself. And because it has so much depth to it, in order to love yourself, you have to have first forgiven yourself. Very difficult to love yourself if you're carrying baggage about things that you've done wrong and how you've messed up and you couldn't have done this. And so it's really having forgiven yourself and loving yourself. And as you're able to really love yourself, so that karmic energy vibrates out from you, and so it's, yeah, just aligning with what you were saying there.
Babes, you want to say something, Shireen? Looked like you wanted to say something.
I'm agreeing with Andre 100%. And because everything is about self, it makes sense that when we forgive and love ourselves, how we change everything around us. We change our reality. We change our outer world. We change the people that we connect with on some level. So I agree 100%. It starts with self. And because it is about self, ultimately, the session is about the oneness. And so yeah, I 100% agree that you have to, even as healers in any form, whether you're a doctor, you have to heal yourself first before you can. And with our Reiki training, you do your self-healing before you can work on someone else. So very much the self is um the key here. So yeah, I agree 100% with Andre.
Very good. Any other comments before we close up the session? So before we close up, I just want to do some shameless marketing, if you don't mind. So just to give you some teasers of what is coming up in some other sessions. So there's I don't know when, but there's one about Yoda and yoga. So again, a very similar topic, same master, different form.
I'm there for that one.
I knew that. That was for you, Sinan, by the way. Shireen mentioned this one, Muhammad. Again, I'm going to show you parallels that if you look at his core teachings, again, not the Quran, look at what he taught and what he said, you'll see that he's talking about this non-duality. The other one is it's a discussion with death. It's from something called the Katha Upanishad, where a young boy, he's a 12-year-old, 11-year-old boy, has a discussion with death. And he wants to know the secret to how does he escape death. And very, very profound story. The one at the bottom right-hand corner, it's called The Little Mother. And this is a South African reference to mother, and it's a South African Indian reference to mother. So Andre, you're never going to understand it. But it's sort of it's a bit of naughty and a bit of nice in the way we use the word in South Africa. And let's give you some other ones that are I've done them all. So there's one about the supreme sound, the vibration of the universe called Om. There's one about a sage called Narada and a discussion with Krishna on the illusion of this existence, of this earth, of this universe, not earth. Then I did what's called a tier rating for the God business. So I sort of put all the different spiritual masters, all the different people, materialists included, the Elon Musks of the world, and I put them into a tiering system. So you can understand who sits on the top of the pyramid and who sits at the bottom. Who is seeing the world as a unified one and who's a materialist looking at a physical reality only. And there's one from a book called the Mahabharata. I call it the kebab move. Again, another South African reference to a kebab is somebody who's a bit of a fool. And in this instance, it's how a very pure individual could lured into doing some really silly things. And so those are some of the talks we're going to be doing over the next coming week. But I think there's, for now, I've got quite a few to cover, and we'll see. We'll choose something. We do it one step at a time, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week if we do it again. And yeah, thank you so much for your attention and time and participation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks for the invite. Please
Thank
keep
you,
me in
Raoul.
the
So glad
loop.
to see all of you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.